Gordon Mitchell, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thanks, Andy. Looking forward to it.
Why don't we just kick off by you telling us a little bit about what you do and how long you've been doing it?
Okay, so it's Gordon Mitchell. I'm the founder of an organization called whol-us. It's a business really looking at large scale change. So the term digital twins have been maybe bandied around of late. It definitely works in that space, but extends into things like ecosystems and ESG and lots of good stuff and fun stuff like that. But it's an emerging tech startup. But for me, myself, for the last 2 decades, I've been working in the built environment operational phase principally, looking at large scale Fortune 100 portfolios and digitizing them for the modern era.
So it's digital transformation. Would
It's a
that be
lot of
your?
digital transformation. I'd like to do a lot more digital, but you have to transform people and operations and process to be able to be digital first. So at the moment, it's more digital transformation than digital.
How long has whol-us been going on for then? You said it's an emerging startup.
Yeah, it's really in its first year in the startup. I've spent basically the last 2 decades with my family business, which is Key Facility Management International. And so it's a kind of corporate startup, if you like. So we've been going at this space for many years, but in terms of its own plowing its own furrow, if you like, then whol-us is the new digitally focused because it's a very different proposition and a very different business model that underpins it. So it's kind of necessitated a separate legal entity with its own journey ahead of it.
Okay. So what we'd like to hear about is kind of your journey and your learnings as a business owner and as an entrepreneur. So what would you say has been your biggest learning since you've become a business owner?
I mean, there's obviously been many learns. I think at the heart of what I've come to is you really need to invest in yourself and your people. If you don't, irrespective of what you're trying to achieve, um, that's the kind of gift that keeps on giving, if you like. And in that way, I think it's a little bit about what we're trying to deliver to our clients as well. We want them to become ultimately better than they were before. Yes, using digital tools, but they're just tools. It's more important in how the tools are executed and how it kind of allows the organization and operation that underpins it to do that transformation to become ultimately a better experience for the end kind of stakeholders. So I guess to an extent, you got to practice what you preach, and in that way, becoming an owner kind of forces you into the weeds of the business mechanics to kind of find your own identity. So yeah, that's been the biggest learn, and I'm still on a big curve with it for sure. But I think good people make it a little bit easier.
So when you say invest in yourself and in your people, what does that investment actually look like? Do you mean education and training and development?
It's certainly around. It's as the brand, the whole-us brand. It's that holistic investment. So there's as a practitioner, we've been looking very much at creating better environments for people. So better lighting, better acoustics, better temperature, all of that kind of external stuff. I guess the last 5 years as a professional, the rise of wellness and well-being has, I guess been been ever more present. So it's comfortable staff are higher performing staff. Happy staff are even better. So it's kind of trying to bring the whole package so that even if we look at current times, the cost of living crisis has an impact on people, and being able to understand what that looks like and, support it. And sometimes that's not just about throwing cash at it, particularly in tight times, but a problem shared is a problem halved, I guess, kind of stuff. So it's very much rounded in terms of trying to really get to the bare bones of what makes that, role empowered to be what it can be.
So on the subject of staff, then, what are the qualities that you look for in employees, and how do you foster a positive and productive environment at work?
I mean, culture and therefore cultural fit is clearly, important for any organization, never mind our own. So I'm I'm very much a believer in kind of willingness and appetite. Um, y- I see and I've looked at many CVs, and of course, it's to a degree a CV to my mind's a little like a filter that you get on, your search engines or your shopping e-commerce or whatever. They let you understand if certain criteria has been met, but beyond that kind of validation piece, I find them at next to zero value in actually knowing who's going to turn up on day one, if you like. So I think skills can be obtained, gaps can be bridged. You can see even things emerging just now from the AI world that are giving, I can't spell amazingly well as an individual in isolation. I'm perfectly fine, got through all my kind of needs as a professional, but if you were to, I would never go to a spelling competition. It wasn't my forte, mathematics, and programming and things like that for sure.
Hmm.
But I don't need to an extent. I mean, I have to have a basic understanding of there and things like that. But the machines these days cover so many of those gaps for me, and you can see the emerging competence coming from those quadrants, things like ChatGPT, which is all the kind of buzzword at the moment. But the reality behind what that provides you as an individual, whether you apply it professionally or not, covers a lot of gaps. But what you can't really change in someone without spending an awful long time is their intent, is their appetite, is their will. And that to me is an absolutely, and a little bit of emotional intelligence chucked in the mix on top of that. I think you can get someone that can achieve anything.
I guess it's hard to teach people emotional intelligence. I suppose it's possible.
Exactly.
Do we have the time to do it, and the will to do that?
I think as a proposition, what we try and do is install into an organization the ability to cultivate that over time. You're not, but as an employer, we're trying to deliver that value to our clients, and therefore we need to bring that to the table. So that is something, I would obviously be looking for my people to be able to hit the ground running with. But I mean, everyone can, yeah, of course, get there in time, but we're here to deliver value today. And, some of our team aren't at the coal face, and they would be going on those career development journeys of their own to get to some of these points.
So, as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, what would you say have been the biggest issues that you've had to overcome?
For me, the world, the kind of mechanics of the world that professionally we're applied to, um, has been quite fragmented, to be quite honest. And you go in, or I came out of, my my first career, which was in finance, city centre finance kind of idea. So highly regulated, quite mature as a sector, quite digitized to an extent, even even when I was operating there. And then I moved to the built environment, which I think, generally speaking, after agriculture, is normally the least mature sector, bar none, kind of internationally. So I a lot of I mean, for one example, there's a Building Safety Act coming out this year, which is really the first time that in the UK we've had legislation, policy specifically governing the built environment that I operate in. The finance sector has been regulated in these kind of ways for many, many years. I mean, to give you an example, facility management, which is the kind of professional discipline that presides over the operational built environment, is the where my kind of focus has been. Facility management in terms of international standards got its first one in 2012, and as a technical committee, it was formed at the same time as nanotechnology. So we're at a point where, yes, we've had buildings for millennia, but in terms of really engineering how these buildings deliver you and I the best experience, but also you and I the best experience at the same time, because our experiential wants differ, and then add another 1,000 people into the building where you're trying to bring all of this craft into a real-time, perpetual kind of state for people, then yes, I mean, it's really in its absolute infancy. So trying to then productize that environment as we are has led to a lot of challenges. I mean, at the moment, I truly, and I reference it a little bit to the Wild West, when you see these kind of links back to when gold rushes were happening and this kind of completely emerging opportunity resided. And at the moment, we have, you know, a similar landscape where there's a lot of um, untested, untrialed products come to the market. And in the UK, probably one of the most mature markets on the planet, we're currently getting around about 75 to 90% failure to return on investment of innovative endeavors. And those numbers are, when I think making this space work is probably the greatest opportunity on the face of the planet to reach the 1.5 degrees, the Paris, agreements, any of these kind of, serious climate issues that we're dealing with, then I think our ability to get a return out of endeavors in that space has to take a zero off the end.
Right. Okay. What are your aspirations for the company in the next 5 years? So you've been in business a year. I mean, what's your vision for the next year?
We're part of a Scottish enterprise program, their high growth ventures program. So we have a big appetite, we have big ambition. I think over the next year or two, we'll be very much looking to consolidate on the message, try and give a little bit of guidance to that fragmentation previously I spoke about. So I think we are looking to start small, think big, scale fast, really. And I think in the next, well, certainly up until the end of this year, our focus will be on solid foundations to support that ultimate scale. The stuff that sits behind the proposition, all those mechanics of the business need. We have proof of concepts. We have already client Fortune 100 clients using the product in its kind of full glory. But to really hit the scale that we're looking for, that's what the next year, is going to be about, is putting those infrastructural parts in place. But beyond that, I guess I want to have a lot of fun and make a big difference is the main objective. I think economically that'll take care of itself because we're doing good things for good reasons. But yeah, I think I think we want to change some lives.
Sound pretty passionate about the mission that your business is set up to achieve.
It's my life's work is the bottom line, and it's where I when I got married in 2005, I really thought then with my wife, what are we going to do with everything in our future? And th- I seriously thought about going to Africa and digging wells and trying to give stuff back. I mean, my entire wedding gifts at my wedding were gifts into Oxfam for, so my wedding got 10 chickens and 3 goats and, this kind of stuff. I had no actual material gifts. So, but then I thought, we understand this sector and it has massive implications. So probably setting something up like this is something that you can, enjoy what you do.
You'd mentioned before we started the interview, you'd mentioned you've got a big family, kids and wife. And how do you balance your personal life with the demands of running a business?
I think that would be my other main objective for the next year is to strike that balance better. It's an ongoing challenge. I think anyone that runs their own business and has a family, never mind a large family, just any family, it's always a balance in act. But it is the kind of balance of life, isn't it? And I think if at the very least it needs to stay kind of in the focus and the awareness that these things are going. But I would be first to put my hands up. There's lots of late nights. There's lots of having to get things over the line, meet demands, keep the lights on, all these great things that you have as a business owner. And I wouldn't pretend that, I'm in a land of bliss. So spending more of that quality family time is part of the gift I think the business is due me in return for that putting that passion and getting things started.
Sure. So, what would you say to anyone who's thinking of going into business for themselves?
I think it's if it's something you're looking to do, then there's getting that foundation in place, is so important. Um, you the business will demand you, and it will come from every angle and a lots that you don't even consider. So getting a strong foundation, getting, even some wise eyes that can just help you on the journey because you will stumble into things that you just couldn't plan for. And there are people out there that have some of those tools that maybe ideally even have some of that experience. So again, we're getting back to people here, but I think if you can get the right framework, the right structure around you, which then supports your business plan, then I can't stress how important and how valuable that can become in just you're going to hit bumps, but how smooth can you make them is the bottom line. And sometimes, it's particularly if they come out of nowhere, it can be a bit of a start, a bit of a fright. So I think keeping that level head and having those that can afford you that, support to do such is the piece that no matter the issue you come across, it provides for you.
Outstanding. Last question, Gordon. Just before we wrap up, what would be the best advice you would give to your 18-year-old self?
It's yeah. There's I guess kind of go easy on yourself. It's you you put a lot of demand, and there's a lot of pressures on you, lots of people um relying on you. Um but yeah, I think you can get there, you know, all of us. So belief in yourself, but just go easy, There's it kind of goes a long way, I think. That kind of love yourself. So yeah, that would
Excellent.
be my strong advice to my 18-year-old self. And don't do so much partying.
Yeah, but let's not take life too seriously either. You know, somebody else I asked this question to said, "Look, don't take life too seriously." You
Well,
know,
that's what I mean. You gotta go easy. You gotta just enjoy the journey. It's not there for destinations, you know. We have to know we're going somewhere, but every moment, you know, and that's where the work-life balance and all of that stuff. It's if you're not enjoying it, then there's something probably not quite right.
absolutely. Gordon, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. I've taken lots of notes here, and I'm looking forward to seeing the final video up on our YouTube channel. So really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story with us.
Cheers, Andy. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, Gordon.